Welcome to Something to Marvel About, a podcast where we discuss and dissect Marvel releases. My name's English Dave, and helping me decide which side to pick is my co-host Andrew. What's up, Andrew?
What's up, nerd?
No context, blue or gold, pick.
Good.
Nice.
Yes.
We are here to talk about X-Men 97, Episode 9, Tolerance is Extinction Part 2. This is the penultimate episode, and woof, it really felt like it. The synopsis is as follows. The X-Men work to settle the score before it's too late. Andrew, your quick 30-second spoiler-free thoughts.
Once again, contender for the best episode of the season. Maybe it is. Yeah, blew my mind. I'm still reeling off everything I've seen. I'm so impressed. I don't know what to think, right? And I think that's the tell of a good story. I don't know where we're going, but just thinking about where we've come from, this was a fantastic episode. Well, probably my favorite so far. Probably.
This show continues to do a good job of translating the comic storylines, for those who know, into a way that at times surpasses the comics. And if you've never read the comics, it'll make you want to go and read the comics. This episode, a lot of things have been building up towards this episode. One of the themes, some of the themes, it talks about the cycle of violence. We saw last week's episode as well. The more things change, the more things stay the same. The continued ramifications of loss and grief and how that has people react. Which also it asks the questions of loyalty and betrayal. In sense of how your mind may change because of circumstances. Extremism versus moderation. This idea that you feel you are right and you have been wronged. How far are you willing to go for that revenge? And this question of legacy. How do you continue in a time where you are supposed to uphold this torch of righteousness and doing the right thing when everything's thrown in your face? How do you keep going? Also hope versus despair. Like things are taken away from you. How do you react to that? I think this episode in this season does a fantastic job of all these there are no right answers. It's not black and white. It plays in the gray area where you see one person's point of view, but then you understand the other person's point of view, and you almost feel like, oh, you're both right. I don't know who to pick. And someone that you might think is right, you think about it more. You're like, well, they may be right in this circumstance, but their actions are very wrong, both good and bad. So I love that. I love it. So let's get into it. Picks up from last week's episode after the destruction of the mansion. I feel like this is like the 50th time the mansion has been destroyed.
I don't get where they're getting the money to fix this every time. But that's super story.
I'd like to know what Xavier's net worth is.
Right?
With all the X-Jets getting destroyed, the mansion getting destroyed, rebuilt. Though, like we've seen in the original series, they probably save a lot of money because they tend to rebuild the mansion themselves. They don't hire outside contractors.
True, I've never really seen them actually call a contractor. So, and I was like, yes.
I thought it was an interesting moment. Xavier waking up amidst the rubble, and it's almost like destroying everything to go back to basics again. Right. Oh, by the way, this is the spoiler section. I forgot to mention. His hover chair is destroyed, so he's back in a regular wheelchair. He's almost like reminded about as powerful as he was. We saw him walking, on Shi'ar, and now he's back to the thing. Magneto is back holding his helmet and almost contemplating, because the helmet almost symbolizes, because we haven't seen him with the helmet, right? It almost symbolizes his return to quote unquote villainy.
Yeah.
So, he's kind of thinking about this, like, what do I do right now? And everyone's kind of feeling of the global chaos. We see Jubilee and Sunspot being chased. And it's interesting. It was down the alleyway that we see them in the intro. I was like, oh, I did the whole Leo thing. Yeah. And Bastion is back at his childhood home. He's almost hurt, heartbreak, because his mother. Opening moments with these characters to kind of set up the rest of the episode. What do you think?
Yeah, Bastion, I gave him a side eye. I was like, what? But I guess it was good for them to remind us that he is a humanoid, right? Or whatever you want to call him. Like, he does have feelings. He's not a sentinel, right? He's something more. I think that was a cool piece because, he basically probably knew all that was going to happen. And another thing I noticed, like, I think the little telephone box outside, like the wires, like I felt like everything is quiet now. So he also seemed like he went through some interesting emotions if you watch him, like from grief to like some I don't know if it's relief. I don't know. He still has something cooking, as we saw later. But that was interesting. Professor X, I don't know. I blame him for everything. That's that's actually my short end of the story because yeah, I did.
When you remember that Bastion's mutant powers allow him to connect and communicate with technology, after what Magneto does, that's all gone, at least
Yep.
where he's living. So it almost feels like something is taken away from him.
Yeah.
Connection is gone. So maybe that could be part of the reason why he feels so sad. Um, and yeah, Xavier had tried to recruit him, and I found it interesting. You could almost look at it as his mother was a catalyst for all of it, because as
Mm-hmm.
soon as the mother heard the word mutant, she shut the
You
door on
shut the
Xavier. It's like,
door.
nope. And it really speaks to this whole idea that we always talk about prejudice, various forms of prejudice and how it may start, and sometimes we may think of it as starting in this grandiose way, and I think in reality it's always a smaller way. It's in the family, having discussions with family members and
Yeah.
how they influence you, people close to you. I
Yeah.
thought that was an interesting kind of way to look at it. You talk about blaming Xavier. Cyclops does the same thing. He has a conversation with Xavier, just asking him, "Why did you leave everything?" And Charles says, "I didn't leave it for him." We all thought that Charles left it to Magneto because Magneto, he saw inner goodness in him that would come out, while he's in this position. But Charles actually says what Madeline had said in episode 1, that it was actually because he didn't want Scott and Jean, to take over. This was their whole lives, and he didn't want to pass this up to them. And so, what did you think of his reasoning?
That was the weakest thing I've ever heard. I'm sorry. Because okay, fine. Give it to Storm. Give it to Logan, right? Like Logan's a hothead, but I feel like if Charles died and gave him the school, Logan would become the best headmaster ever. Like feel pretty cool with me, right? Like I feel like you give it to Rogue, give it to Gavin. I literally don't care. Not Magneto. Like, I would have preferred if he said, the world is tough now, and I think Magneto was right. I would have preferred that as an answer than to, oh, I'm going to give you like, no, sorry. He, it feels unfair to kind of train these kids up, all these years, like get them to like, love you, see you as a father, and then not give them your house, like the house they grew up in. It just felt weak.
I do see where he's coming from, right? This idea that he doesn't want to put all this pressure on his. I don't think it's just Scott and Jean. I think this idea of putting on the pressure on his students
Students, yeah.
was what his reasoning. But I think the execution issue with that, like you said, there's many other people you could have given it to. It didn't have to be Eric, or maybe this was a quick fuck you, Eric. I'm gonna give you all this weight and see how it
Yeah.
feels like for you to carry this weight.
I wish he said that. I wish he was like, you know what, man, I thought it would keep him in check, which it did, right? It's a way for Eric to have to honor his legacy, right? But yeah, I don't know. And I'm not saying, me saying I blame him, I'm not trying to be too unfair, right? He's a person too, and like parents make mistakes with their kids as well. But I think it's a lesson in just being like, you can't let someone grow up in responsibility and then kind of pull the rug from under them. Like that has to be, Cyclops' choice and Jean's choice, right? You can't
Yeah, you could at
you
least
can't really pull that from
have a
one.
conversation with them.
Yeah,
Let them know. Don't. They found out through Magneto. I can give them a heads up.
or be like, oh, to this will like give you first right of refusal, or I
Yes.
don't know, man, like, something. And again, not Magneto, but
No.
anyways.
Storm, after her and Forge rescue Jubilee. I love that moment where they just arrive. Jubilee and Roberta are being attacked, and Storm and Forge just on top of the building.
Casually.
Hero shot. They return to the mansion, and Storm is like, "What the hell happened? I left for 2 minutes.
Like 5 days.
All this is happening. What's going on?" And they realize they have to split into 2 teams. And those who know the comics love this. The gold team, led by Cyclops, and the blue team led by Cyclops, and the gold team led by Storm, which I thought was great. But before that, they realized they had to convince Magneto to reverse the damage. We found out that there's a couple of hours, because Storm even says, "I can feel the magnetic forces being destroyed." Which, let's go back. See, this is what I think with Magneto. I get it. I understand your pain and your issues. But how many innocent people, probably even mutants, right, got destroyed when you shut down the Earth's magnetic forces, pretty much an EMP? How many planes get destroyed? How many hospitals shut down, things like that. I was like, Magneto, yeah, you're being a bit selfish here because I understand what you're doing, but it's not just going to affect humans. It's going to affect a lot of mutants as well. Yeah.
Fair. I didn't say because I was upset too. I was like, oh, he's been so villainous. But my wife kind of gave a good point, which was like, no one has said thank you, Magneto, for saving us from these prime sentinels, right? They didn't even come. They didn't come at him in a respectful manner. To be fair, they didn't even say, yo, bro, oh my gosh, thanks so much. Do you know what? Just let's talk about this a little more. It was just like, Magneto, you've done it again, and he's like, like
Well, actually, this leads me to my question, right? Because again, I'm jumping forward a bit. He says to Charles, I walked in your shoes. You should try walking in mine.
Mhm.
I feel like he's being very. I'm like, how long did you really walk in those shoes for?
Like
2 days.
a week.
And even then, your actions while walking those shoes weren't exactly always good. I feel like apart from the time when he was saving people in Genosha, I feel like it's easy to say, let me walk down the path of quote unquote good. Let me walk down the path of righteousness. But to suddenly drop off the path the first time you're tested,
Yeah,
it's like because that's the hard part. It's like, do you maintain that path when you're tested? Do you maintain that path? It's
exactly.
easy to walk down that path where everything's good, right? In previous episode, he was like, when he saw Genosha, he's like, "Oh, I remember Charles telling me about his dream while we were at a bar in Germany,
Yeah.
and I can't believe it came true." And then this episode is like, "Oh, you stupid dream you told me about your bar in
Yeah,
Germany."
right. This is like
I was
he's
like,
so
really
emotional.
so quick to just switch, so it becomes, and that's the thing. I think on both sides, everyone's coming out from an emotional angle. They may say they're trying to do betterment for everybody, but at some point you're like, I think it's betterment for you.
Yeah,
It's your anger driving you. you
yeah.
know uh, 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 Charles even says to Eric, you know as much as you say the world is controlled, the world is controlling you now.
That
It's
was a
controlling
great
your
line,
anger.
actually. That got me too, because yeah, he is being forced to retaliate, and I agree with what you said. His reaction is not commensurate to the crime. Like he needs to also understand that yes, my anger needs to be tempered, right, or channeled. You can't just have tantrums like you're like, oh my god, they did this to me. Fine, I'm taking the magnetic field. Like no, calm down.
And
I
when you
get
think
that.
about it, he's literally playing into Bastion's hands. This is what Bastion wanted. Bastion didn't like the peace between
Yeah,
humans and mutants.
yeah.
He literally constructed these events. He set this up for this reaction so you can have a reason for humans to be mad at mutants. Sounds like Magneto. You're being played right. I mean, you're being played right now.
Yeah,
You're
sad.
clearly being played into that. I almost think, did Bastion even probably know that Magneto would be released?
Yeah.
Maybe that's part of his plan too,
For me,
because Bastion played the long game for a
mhm.
long time. Rogue has a conversation with Xavier, when she wakes up. And, at first she thought, I felt bad for her because when she's told that, oh, Magneto survived and Bastion survived, she's like, Remy?
For me, yeah.
No, sorry, Remy did not survive at all. And yeah, that confrontation moment, Magneto comes down, and I love when Magneto's like, "I'm just coming in peace," and Xavier's like, "Yeah, there's a giant asteroid in my front yard that says
Like,
otherwise."
with the northern lights flashing,
Which
and it's
does,
like, sir.
yeah, on a scientific level, that Northern Light stuff was actually really good because again, the Northern Lights are created by magnetic forces. If he's destroyed that, he is the magnetic force. So the Northern Lights are going to follow him.
I literally noted that, and I was like, I love this show so much. Like, yeah, the attention
Right?
to detail is a little crazy, but yeah, exactly. Imagine you're Professor X in your wheelchair, and you see the northern lights outside your house with this guy. You're like, sir, that is not peaceful, please.
I found it interesting, and I want to think your point of view that it made sense to me why Rogue would side with Eric. We've seen a lot of what she's gone
Yeah,
through. We've seen all her things. She even wears her original green villain outfit when she used to be with the
I
Brotherhood,
love that.
and she's wearing Remy's jacket.
Uh-huh.
But here's my question: and do you do you feel that Roberto would have picked Magneto? Because I feel like he would have picked neither Magneto or Eric. He would have been like, you know what, guys, I'm out of this. But what did you feel about Roberto lining up with Magneto?
Hi, it reminded me of Pyro or the Fire Guy, the live action movie. I don't know why.
Yes, yes.
It just felt like yeah, rebellious young. The reason I get it for Roberto is it's never like he hasn't been training with the X Men like, oh, I really want to become one of you. Right? He's kind of been like, all right, Jubilee, you're cool, and oh, no, let's hang out. and then his mom does this, and he's like, so it's like extreme, and he's like, yeah. I like what that guy is saying. Like, I like, yeah, exactly. So from that angle, I kind of get it. Just where it's like he's angry, he's upset. It's not like he loved the X-Men way per se, right? Or at least up until now in the way they're portraying it, right? So it just felt very much like, yeah, I'm angry. Honestly, again, this guy has the Northern Lights parked outside. I'm just gonna go with him. No offense, Professor X. You haven't been here. I didn't meet you. He doesn't know Professor the way we do, right? He
No,
just knows
no.
this guy you guys were always talking about. Now he's back here, like, I don't know, he seems kind of weak. Like, I'm just saying, I'm just saying. So from that angle, I guess I saw where Roberto was like, I can fly to him and Ro can fly. Let's all fly away. That's what, like I said, I'd be like, hey guys, please take me. I can't fly. Please give me a ride. But yeah, I get it. I think.
No, I understand the reasoning. I just felt like, and this is me being nitpicky, I felt like, you mentioned Pyro.
Yeah.
When Pyro sides, the movie or the storyline spends a lot of time kind of setting that up,
Yeah,
right? We understand.
as a bad
But I
boy.
feel like Roberto, he doesn't get much setup time. I feel like he's kind of there, but we didn't get real setup to understand his anger,
Yeah.
right? Again, I'm not saying she sided with Xavier, but it's not two choices. It could be Xavier, Magneto, or none of them.
Yeah.
And the fact that, and I like that he kind of regrets it when he's fighting Jubilee later, and he's like, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry." I said, "I'm sorry, I'm
Yeah,
sorry."
yeah, which was a nice touch for me, right? That's why I feel like it just felt like puberty emotions, and like this pent up
Yep.
anger. Like I said, he's like, this guy has northern lights in the sky. I'm gonna leave for him. Worst case, I'll come back, but like, I'm way too curious. Like, sorry.
Yeah.
Where are you going with this? Literally, please, not me
Right.
there.
Um, I did like the moment between Cable and Scott. Scott's such a dad.
He is though.
Like
He's doing his
he's
best.
he's like, I love my son. I wish I could be out with you and Gene. And I love how they kind of depict Cable, because yes, he's a grown man, but he still has like teenage angst.
Yeah.
He's like, she's not my mother. She's not my mom.
Bro, calm down. You're so old. But he probably didn't have many like social interactions in his time that were worthy of
True,
like
true.
building that relationship. So it's nice to see that in his character.
Right. I did like the moment where he's just like, I have one more thing. And then Cable's like, what? Be careful. It's like, no, give them hell. And then he gives him the suit. What did you think of the suit moment? What did you expect? Black leather?
The reverse shade to the live action movies, I think is the funniest thing,
Yes.
and I'm all for it because they
Yes.
they all just look good in different ways. Like I like every single suit. Even the ones that I almost want to say they felt outdated at first in my mind, and then I like looked again, and the nostalgia took over, and I loved
No,
every
I
suit.
loved it. No, I loved all the suits. As someone who grew up reading comics and seeing the wave of comic book movies come into our lives, over the 2000s, the early 2000s and mid 2000s era
Yeah,
of the original X-Men movie. As much as I enjoyed those movies, I did felt like betrayed when that line hit. What do you expect? Yellow spandex? I was like,
yeah, yeah.
yes, yes, I
I
did.
mean, yeah, like kind of. I mean, is it
That's
is
what I
it
want.
so wrong to ask? Like dark yellow is fine. It doesn't have to be like neon.
It
Well,
doesn't have to be
yeah,
spandex. It could be, it could be yellow. Which I'm happy that we live in a time now where colored superhero costumes are becoming more favorable. As we record this, Deadpool and Wolverine's about to come out soon, and we've seen Wolverine in his yellow, and he looks great. Like,
fantastic. And they could even
right,
add even more black if they wanted to. So like,
right, shit. Now I want to see the brown and yellow costume in live
right?
action too.
And I want to see every single one from this show in live action. This is why just again we're going on tangents. I remember a friend of ours said that live action. I feel like X-Men as a series is really what would be the kicker because there's so much. This show has reminded me how much there is to cover. Like, it's so hard to put this into a
Yes,
movie.
yes,
Like
yes.
ah yeah, let's get back
Um,
on track.
Bastion attacks them. He has special sentinels that are hidden somewhere, and I love when Storm is like, "All right, let's go," and Jean is concerned, right? And I love the moment between Storm and Jean. Let us do what we do. Make them mind your weather, sister, and them weather your mind. What do you think of the relationship between Storm and Jean as
That's such
sisters?
a fantastic line. I wrote it down as well, and it's nice to see, right? I like seeing the bonds between people and sisters, and Jean and Storm have always had this. So it's nice to see them just amidst all the chaos have that little exchange. Especially Storm. Listen, Storm commands the presence every time she's on the scene. Like even when she was
Mhm.
in the play and the sentinels were shooting and her legs were crossed, and she was literally just like chilling, like please, like this is nothing. So it's nice to see her human side as well, because it keeps being reminded when you see her as like Omega level mutant, but it's nice to see her as, a really good friend as well.
Yeah, and it's true. And I think sometimes we forget. We look at them as students in a school, but they live together
Yeah.
too. So of course you'd bond like siblings,
Yeah.
right? You almost raised together. And I think sometimes we forget to see, because we see some relationships like, oh, Cyclops and Jean, they're
Yeah.
dating, they get married. We always see romantic relationships, but we
Yeah.
rarely see, outside of, I would say, Nightcrawler and Rogue as well, right? You rarely see this kind of platonic, familial relationships with these characters. I thought this was a great moment to kind of see that. I love that. I love when Storm is attacking. The music kicks in again. The same music we heard when she transformed. It's so epic. The score
It's
in
just
this
fantastic.
is
So,
fantastic. Fantastic. What do you think of Morphs hulking out?
wow.
Oh,
Morph
Morph smash.
smash. Oh, that's so good. Morph is, every show needs a morph. And a quick way to do all the cameos without having to explain a single thing, right? Like,
Nope,
because
nope.
I think you mentioned it each time. I like them because they've given us Captain America and Spider Man. Each time you see, it's almost like when I see the character, my brain is still like, wait, that's not the real one, right? Like, there's always that like quick because you're not, I mean, yes, unless you see more transform into them, you're just like, I'm not sure if this is a cameo or this is morphing out. But I know that they have that on us. And always great,
Yes,
especially the move with Gene, like then shielding him and him like continuing the move.
yes.
The
I love that.
combos this season again, excellent.
Again, that's a great way to kind of remind us that they are a team.
Mm-hmm.
They just instinctively just go into team mode.
Yeah,
There's no talking. There's just like boom, boom, boom. Everyone just reacts.
yeah.
I thought that was really, really well done. The long-awaited fight, Jean versus Sinister.
Right.
I love that moment when he's like trying to convince her, like, I can help you. I can tell you about your memories. And she's like, no, she's with me. What do you think of Jean versus Sinister? Finally seen Sinister fight. Never seen that.
Right. I couldn't tell if I forgot or like. I expected him to drop his one or two lives and then disappear, as he does. But
Yeah.
it was cool. I like that he fights the way I expect. Right. The Sinister is
Oh.
a top level villain, but he's not the guy. Like in a one-on-one, Jean is smacking him. Like it's not. I'm not expecting him to have like apocalypse level strength. But the way that he fought, throwing the car, hiding in the shadow, it feels very sinister. It feels very cunning. It was nice to see that. Even up on, I love when she finally got home. When she took off the ceiling, right? And the
Yeah.
light, and then the fact that they made it into a bowling strike. It's
I
so
love that.
disrespectful, but like it's I feel like it's the best way to embarrass a villain to make us like, yeah,
Yeah.
like, yeah, Sinister, you deserve that, you idiot. It was like she threw the arcade at him. It
Right.
was such a funny fight, but I like seeing that side of him, like, just to feel like again he fights like I expect his personality to make him fight. I think that was a very good portrayal of Sinister. But yeah, go G.
But in talk about Sinistering, even though he gets knocked out, Sinister always has something up his sleeve,
Yeah,
and that's where we are reminded that he did do things to Cable when Cable was a baby, and now he takes over Cable the same way he took over Madeline. You even see the diamond or emerald in the forehead, and at this moment, I think a lot of people who don't read comics and all they know is from the cartoons or things like that, and even my own brother, he was like, "Wait, I didn't know Cable had those powers."
my
And I
wife
was
as
like,
well.
well, why did you think he was a mutant?
Not just that. I was like, the virus? What happened to the virus? Huh? You gotta ask questions, people. You have to
Right?
investigate.
Right? And for those who don't know, Cable is one of the most powerful mutants ever. He's Omega level. The problem is, the caveat is, like you just said, because of the virus in him, his powers are constantly on trying to maintain the virus from spreading. So that's why he only uses guns. I told my brother, he's not gun guy. That's not his powers. Like, he's a mutant. What was his mutation? He's a very powerful telekinetic. Um, do you think he killed Jean?
No, it's the Phoenix. 98%. 98%. Oh, also because Just to rewind and tie to this, like Rogue, she gave an awesome line when she was talking to Professor X, right? Like, who's gonna die next? Like, Jean again? Like, I've been there, done that. Like, please. So that's why I also feel like she's not gonna die. Come on, like, if Jean dies, we'll be like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, she'll be back.
Yeah, like this, Phoenix would be like, ooh, the corpse is available. So, I think if I saw there's no flash of red, but especially because it's pre-finale, I'm all but sure she's about to merge with the Phoenix. It goes with the Storm story, right? It just has a good way of balancing out them overcoming this anomaly within them, or that has control of them a little bit. So that's my guess. I'll eat candy if I'm wrong. Yeah.
I think that's a very good guess. Also, because this season in the intros they've been teasing us. We keep seeing Phoenix in the intro credits, and I feel like a lot of things we see in the intro credits have meaning. Nothing's there just for the
Not
sake of being there.
there.
Actually, fun fact: rewind a bit. In this week's intro credits, in the sequence where this not much has changed. I think Xavier's added, but I think he was added last
Storm
week.
as well
But
with their new costume.
yes, Storm is back. But a big difference was in the sequence where you have the Brotherhood and the X-Men running towards each other, and you have the humans in the middle. This time, the humans are Sentinels. I was like, that's a
That was a
nice little
great
touch. They
touch,
transform.
honestly.
Great, great little touch. Um, yeah, no, I think Phoenix is. I don't think Jean is dead. I think the Phoenix will kind of power through what's happening right there. We assume she's dead, but I don't think she's dead. At the same time, Blue Team is confronting Magneto. As much as Magneto, again, as much as he's right in his words, he's also got a god complex because he's just sitting on a throne of Sentinels.
It's so funny. Like, is this really what you were doing? You were just sitting there, sir? Like, oh, I mean, but great throne. It had Game of Thrones
I mean,
vibes,
great throne.
like the Iron
Yes,
Throne, definitely
definitely.
very close to that. But yeah, the God complex is that's why, unfortunately, if this was real and it was in that environment, I would be like Roberto. Was something because I would like be enamored by him, and then after a while, I'd be like, what is this dude really about? Like, where's the substance?
Right? Like, I'm gonna sit on this big asteroid, and you're forcing us to fight our own teammates. I love in the sequence where Wolverine just goes straight, and Rogue instantly knows that he's fighting to kill. He has to go straight for him,
I love
take him
that.
out.
Yeah, yeah. She literally knows.
Even earlier on, the opening of the episode, Logan actually says, "Well, Magneto ain't gonna change his mind just because we say please. The man just declared war on the whole planet. His day ends one way." And that was telling us Logan was already ready. So, what did you think of the moment? How was your reaction the moment you saw claws come out through Magneto's front? I believe this is the first time in animation we've seen blood on the claws. Right? They cut away; it came right through. What do you think of that moment right there?
That was one of the most escalating moments I've seen in a while, right? Because it
Okay.
starts for me from Professor X is controlling Magneto, who's screaming, and Cyclops shoots Professor, so you're like, huh? And Magneto, yeah, puts the can on his head and is pressing him, and you're like, huh? And then the stabbing, so that's like the fifth level, and then the man can be removed, and I think it literally, and then it ends, and what a cliffhanger, or what a way to not even cliffhanger per se, just what a perfect sequence of shots, right? Like, yeah, my brain is like, where do I focus right now? Because as much as I'm like, oh well, okay, I say like this, I'm like, Wolverine, are you okay? But like, I mean, he heals anyways. Like, and the vacuum wasn't
Yeah.
his power. Like, you'll be fine, Professor. Are you fine? They were just crushing your head right there. Like,
Right.
does he have brain damage right now? Like, what else is going on? I think, I mean, just making random guesses. I feel like that's when what's her name? Rogue is gonna be like, yo, Mike, chill. I mean, I'm with you, but like, you're not gonna kill the Professor. And like, Wolverine's been strapped, like you said, he's been ready. Another reason why I love him as a character, right? You can always rely on him. Like you said, he took off the helmet, he got the stabbing, right? You're all there like playing games. He's like, I'm here for a job, yo. Two things. One way this happens, your helmet's off or you die. I tried the first way,
Yep.
on to the second. So I think that's gonna be interesting now. If he heals quickly, can Magneto even fight him anymore the same way? Because it's all right. There's no more metal in me. Like now, let's go, right? Which could be very interesting. There are so many avenues where they could take this, and bro, one of the best like endings of an episode that's within 30 minutes I've probably seen, like at least top 5 in my
Mhm.
my animation viewing history, for sure.
Mhm. Now, I think people also don't realize or forget that one of the reasons why Logan was a prime candidate for the Weapon X program is because adamantium is very
Yeah,
poisonous, but his healing power kind of counteracts
yeah.
that. So just like Cable, his power is constantly on. So what happens when it doesn't need to be working on keeping back the adamantium poisoning? How powerful does his healing become?
But you would not. He
you
just
know,
goes
and
feral, probably like absolute, because he's gonna be pissed first of all. And like I said, he'd be like, I kind of feel lighter for some reason. He's like, wait, like he's like, what is this? Oh, okay,
right.
okay.
Though bone claws can't cut through everything, so he kind of has to change his approach because he would just start slicing things and break his claws.
Yeah, yeah. Which
And
I hope they, if
Speak,
he goes out this route, I hope they showed that. That'd be funny.
speaking of claws, just a little moment. I didn't realize how sharp Beast's claws are. He just
It's
sliced through
slice
the
of
center of the
Sentinel,
arm.
right? I thought the same thing. I actually thought the
What?
exact same thing because it almost was like, should you be doing more Beast? And I knew you're smart, and I will allow you because Beast is like half Ford, half Baby Hulk. So it's like, okay, you're allowed. But yeah, that was shocking a little bit.
Speaking of that, the moment with Forge and Beast trying to create a device to dampen Bastion's powers, I did love the moment where he's like, "Oh, we can also take it early," and Storm's like, "Lightning
Like
strike!" Like,
that,
no, we don't
that
do that
that's
around here.
not a thing we do. That is not a nice feeling for anyone. No one.
Mm. No, I don't care. He's the villain. We're not playing around with that. All right, we're not playing around with that. Some moments I liked. I liked the moment where beforehand when Charles and President Kelly are having a discussion, and this is where you realize that Charles still has empathy for Eric. He says he's not a lunatic, merely a man trying to survive in a world that has proven his worst fears true time and time again. And I thought that was a very, very important line for him to say because he still understands. And also lets me realize that there's been this kind of weird peace between the X-Men and the
Yeah,
Brotherhood and
yeah.
Magneto. Because after seeing what Magneto does to Logan, you realize he could have done that at any time. We also realize that Xavier, we forget how powerful he is. Xavier doesn't need you to make a choice. He can make the choice for you. He could have easily just mind controlled Rogue, like, no.
Yeah,
Mind
yeah.
control Roberto, no. you know,
Or his
but he's
entire team
still.
and just control that. You know what? You guys shut up. Just do this.
And I think that as for all his faults, I think being reminded that Xavier holds back himself. He'll still have a discussion. He'll still have a debate
Yeah,
because he can make you think that it was your choice. And you would have
yeah.
no idea. He could completely, when he talks to Cyclops, the Cyclops is mad. He can just be like Cyclops, don't. you know,
Forget about it. So, yeah.
and I think sometimes you kind of forget about that. I think again, this kind of shows. I think this show does a fantastic job of when you look at purely one person's side, you understand, but then when you see the other side, you're like, maybe Charles is wrong, maybe Xavier's right. I mean, maybe Magneto's right. But then you see Magneto's actions, like,
Uh-huh.
okay, he's kind of right
Yeah.
here. You must have to like pick and choose the parts that are right, which leads me to believe that if you know the comics, sometimes there may be an onslaught of ramifications.
Alliteration, that's not what it is, but just threw another word in there. I was literally doing research, but there's so much, man. This show has opened up even my mind to the depths of the comics and what I need to prepare for. Because
Right.
yeah, there's a lot. Because and like you said, Sinister. I feel like I'm always thinking about Sinister. Like Sinister is still there, guy. You're not fighting
Also,
3 villains.
I don't think we've seen the last of Apocalypse. I don't know. We see him in the intro as
Lust?
well.
Has he even started?
I'm just saying in their lives, in their lives.
Yeah. Oh, and like, bruh, like, yeah. I love it, and I hate how many simultaneous villains they have going.
You know?
I think it's great, and it shows that again. I just keep being reminded that this is a continuation from the original show, right? So this is like they're giving us time to watch the team bond. No,
Mm.
that's that has happened. This is we're in the end game now, right? Like,
Right.
how's that feeling?
Yes.
So good.
Speaking of Sinister, I did like how Bastion knows Sinister so well that he instantly saw that was not Sinister because Morph as Sinister comes in like, oh, I'm trying to help you. He's like, Sinister would never.
No, like it's like if you tried anything else, I'm at a body. It's like not law. Sinister. He's just so one track minded.
All right, here's my thing, right? As much as I love the moment where Magneto says to Charles, "I've always wanted to say this. Shut up." I thought, yeah, but also Magneto, kettle cold in the pot black. You've been very speechy yourself this season. I mean, I love the speeches, but you're very
Yeah.
speechy too. I,
Uh,
I think sometimes both Eric and Charles kind of love and hate the fact that they are very similar. They're two
uh-huh.
sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
Ultimately, they want this. They want the same goal.
Yeah.
They don't want different goals. It's just
People
how
to
do
be
we
free.
get? Their experiences kind of inform how they get there. Magneto's had such a tragic experience. Charles has had more positive experience. He understands, family, and I think that's the one thing Magneto doesn't have. He doesn't have family. He doesn't have that kind of backup. And as much as Charles tries to be there for him, the pain is too much. And seeing that repetitive nature, and again, like we spoke about last week's episode, sometimes trauma is a cycle of trauma. But like we see in Eric, you're not doing anything to stop that cycle. You're in fact continuing that cycle to the point where people like Bastion can manipulate you into continue that cycle because
Yeah.
Bastion is the catalyst for all of this. He's the one that's, like I said, he's the chess master positioning you, Magneto, where he wants you to be because it's exactly what he wants. Any other parts? I have some quotes, but I won't go through all the quotes. I thought that there's a lot of good quotes here. Where are we now? What do you expect in the final episode? I don't know. I don't know where we go from this. Do we see Avengers? Do we see is Jean dead? I don't think she's dead, but what happens? Where do we go from here? Does Xavier say, like, you know what? All this. I'm just going to take everyone out, shut you all down. We've seen it in the movies. He can freeze people as well, in place. What do you think we're going to see in the
I'm gonna say our minds blown. There's so much. We'll go left field. I think we're gonna see Bishop. Let's not forget.
finale?
Let's not forget that dude.
Uh-huh.
I feel like it'd be weird to move like me. Maybe not. I don't know. Might even be in the outro. You might see him.
Okay.
We're gonna see another cameo from Morph. I guarantee you that. I really, like you said, the way they've done the episodes shows me that they can do as much or as little as they want to, right? Because they've shown us that they can pack a lot of stuff into 30 minutes, or they can draw stuff out. So it really is dealer's choice, right? It depends on if they want to elaborate on something or take it all out. But I feel like we bring the Bastion storyline to an end, even if it's a short term end. I think that's the main thing we're gonna do. And I feel like, yes, I'm gonna hear Apocalypse's laugh before the end of the season for sure. Like I just waiting for him to be like, all right, now that y'all are done, let's have a real fight.
I think that's all we have this week. I did like when Logan kills or stabs Magneto. He says, "Been in a lot of wars, bub. The brave always die first." And that's a line that Magneto said in the original series. So it's like a callback, like, ha, throwing your words in your face, son. Anyway, what do you nerdies think of this episode? What do you nerdies think of the season? What do you nerdies expect in the season finale next week? A lot of questions. Find us on social media at The Nerdy Bunch. Thank you, Andrew.
Dave.
My name's English Dave, and this has been a Nerdy Bunch spoiler-free. Well, this has been a Nerdy Bunch review of X-Men 97, episode 9, and I cannot wait for episode 10. And as always, Andrew,
Keep it nerdy, y'all.
peace.